今天的中国是一个开放的国度，欢迎不同的文化在这里碰撞交流。
Yeah, everything is so convenient and cheap.
It's a good economy. There's a lot of business to do.
中国给我一个很好的未来。
Now I'm working in Shanghai for 2.5 years. I liked it from the first moment.
他是全球清算对手方协会秘书长马库斯·齐克沃尔夫。
我完全搞不懂他是干什么的。他递出名片以后，别人说：“哦，您是打扫房间的。”
Yeah, that really happened. Yeah.
他们用 weapon 来形容你们。
Because they detected that it's very dangerous if the banks only trade with each other.
全球清算对手方协会是落户中国的第一个国际性的金融交易组织机构。
Why have you settled and registered CCP 12 in Shanghai? I always say, come, have a look. Yeah, if you can visit Shanghai, you should do it.
开讲了加上海，本期演讲者马库斯·齐克沃尔夫。
各位好，欢迎收看中国电视荧屏上首个电视青年公开课开讲了，我是主持人撒贝宁，欢迎各位。云南白药气血康植物补益改善神卷法理，感谢云南白药气血康口服液对本节目的大力支持。今天我们的开讲请到的这位演讲嘉宾是一个外国友人，他是全球清算对手方协会秘书长。你是不是觉得你听的不是中文？我第一感觉就是，就所有这些词儿拆开了我都明白。全球不用说了，清算，因为我学法律的，我大概知道，比如说企业破产了以后需要有一些清算的过程。对手方，我完全搞不懂他是干什么的。他来上海的时间不长，好像只有2年。他好像只会2个中文字，就是出口。对，他觉得只要认识这2个字，在上海他就不会走丢。他太天真了。但是他告诉我们，他喜欢上海。那么，他究竟喜欢上海的什么？他来到上海，又是在从事一份怎样的事业？
And I'm now working in Shanghai for CCP 12. I'm the CEO. The association was founded in 2017 here in Shanghai. It was first financial trade association which was. Now I enjoy very much that I'm based in the city and have more time to explore the city. I like very much to walk on the Northbund. Everything was with English letters, with English signs, yeah. And so I had immediately the feeling that I will not get lost, yeah. Very modern, very professional. And you can take a ferry crossing the river and walk back on the other side of the river. Everything fits together, cars, the scooters, the e-bikes, the bikes, and the pedestrians, of course, yeah. That is one of the amazing parts of Shanghai. I enjoy the ferry very much. It's a way... Now it actually, when I visit them, they say hello to me. Not like a foreigner, yeah. They treat me as a friend, yeah. That I appreciate very much to work in China.
掌声有请我们今天的开讲嘉宾，全球清算对手方协会秘书长马库斯·齐克沃尔夫，有请。Nice to meet you. Welcome to the show. 谢谢各位，请坐。您是从德国来？
Yeah, I come from Germany. Yeah, from Frankfurt. Yeah, now for 2.5 years. Yeah.
在上海2年多的时间，是不是经常会有人问您这样的问题？就是全球清算对手方协会到底是做什么的
CCPs central counterparties are a very special function in the financial market, and we are the global voice of all central counterparties globally.
还是没太听懂。但是，据我了解，就是清算对手方协会在很多重大的金融事件当中扮演了非常重要的角色，是保障金融系统安全的一个非常重要的武器。他们用 weapon 来形容你们。
Yeah, that's true, and especially after the last crisis, after the default of Lehman Brothers, the G20 already imposed the G20 countries to implement more and more CCPs, more central counterparties in the financial markets. Yeah, because they detected that it's very dangerous if the banks only trade with each other. So the leaders, they think that it's a good idea to implement a central counterparty who can take care of all of the trading between the banks to guarantee these trades. Because if one bank is in default, the CCP, the central counterparty, has to manage that default, and not every bank has to manage a default with its partner.
所以，如果不了解的话，就会闹出很多笑话。我听说，马库斯先生在中国有一次给别人递上自己的名片，您之前工作的单位叫清算所，用英文写叫 Clearing House。他递出名片以后，别人说：“哦，您是打扫房间的。”以为他是小时工。
Yeah, that really happened. Yeah, it was in a complete different business. I hand over my business card, and they said, "Oh, yeah, you're doing the cleaning business, okay."
但是，即便是名片上写着中文，可能也会有误解。清算对手方，别人马上说：“我有一个对手需要清算一下。”但是我要告诉各位。为什么今天我们会请马库斯先生来作为我们的开讲嘉宾？那是因为全球清算对手方协会是落户中国的第一个国际性的金融交易组织机构。上海2年半的时间，您最喜欢上海什么呀？
Oh, enjoy very much the contrast between the historic Bund on one side and the skyscrapers on the other. Yeah, that's an amazing picture. Yeah.
而且我听说您特别喜欢坐轮渡。
Yeah, of course. It was by accident when I had my first stay here in Shanghai. When I worked here, I took by accident. I took such a ferry, yeah, where all the Chinese tourists and the e-scooters are crossing the river, and I liked it from the first moment. You can have beautiful views, and it's much more interesting compared to the underground or crossing the river by car in the tunnel.
我的老家在武汉，在长江上，所以从小我也是坐着轮渡长大的。所以马库斯先生觉得特别奇怪的是，为什么轮渡上面有人，还有电动车？我说您是没有20年前来到中国，小的时候我们坐轮渡，上面还有鸡呀、鸭呀、鹅，对，所以这是一座江城能够带给人的非常特殊的一种感受。但是我相信，除了外滩的景色，除了轮渡的这种新鲜之外，上海一定还有更多的东西在吸引着马库斯先生和他的同事，从而使得他们决心把全球清算对手方协会这样一个重要的金融交易组织机构落户在上海。我们接下来有请您为我们开讲。
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for this very warm welcome here at the stage at the river in Shanghai. I'm delighted to give the speech today. I left Deutsche Börse at 2016 after working 24 years for Deutsche Börse, and in 2017 I was appointed to the CEO of CCP12. At the 1st of April I arrived in Shanghai and I had my first day in the office. Yeah, I was asked what was your experience at your first day in the office, and I must say it was quite normal. Yeah. Everything was prepared, everything was working, computer was working, I got an access card, yeah. Had some meetings, had some calls, we went out for lunch, and I felt like I have worked here for years. I have to say that it was also possible my very smooth start in the office in Shanghai, because this was not my first visit to Shanghai. Yeah, my first visit to Shanghai was in 2011. I was asked by my boss at Deutsche Börse to join him in a negotiation team to do some cooperation talks with Shanghai Clearing House. Yeah. When we commuted from the airport to the city, I was really impressed, because I must say I expected a lot of old town, so Shanghai Old Town, yeah, and not so much modern buildings, yeah. But we arrived and we had a preparation meeting in the Jinmao Tower, and that was also very surprising. Yeah, such a tall skyscraper. Yeah, and I looked out of the window, and there was an even taller skyscraper, the Shanghai Financial World Center in the neighborhood. The Shanghai Tower wasn't built at that point in time, and we had a very nice Chinese dinner with this large round table, and a lot of dishes were presented. Yeah, and you can pick and choose, and I like this way of dining very much. Of course, I thought, it would be great again if I can again visit Shanghai. Turned out that we want to continue our cooperation talks, and next time I arrived with a group of experts who want to give some lectures for the Shanghai Clearing House. So what is this central counterparty, which is synonym for CCP? And also sometimes you talk about clearing houses. The central counterparty in the financial market interposes itself as a legal entity into a trade. So I buy some shares from you and sell them to you. Yeah, actually you both made the deal. Yeah, at the exchange gives me the information as a central counterparty. Yeah, and the contract, the legal obligation, is with me for both parties. Yeah, so forgive me if you go into default. Yeah, she has no relationship to you. She has only a legal relationship to me, and I'm responsible as the central counterparty, yeah, to provide the shares to her at her price, and I have to manage that risk that you might be in default. Yeah, yeah. That it's in a nutshell explained what a central counterparty. Exactly for that reason, the G20, after the Lehman crisis in 2008 and 2009, tasked the central counterparties to take a bigger role in the financial market. There was a Pittsburgh summit of this G20, and the statement was that more trading should take place with the central counterparties involved. So banks should not trade directly bank to bank. They should use the central counterparty for their trades. Yeah. Yeah. Finally, I want to explain that a little bit more in detail to you. What is a CCP 12? First, what is a trade association? A trade association is a network or a representation of one particular industry. Yeah. So experts of that industry, of competitors, come together and they develop position papers or industry standards on common grounds. Same is true for the CCPs. There should be no competition on risk management. Yeah, but there are several other grounds where you can come together and where you can develop industry standards. We have developed one standard here in Shanghai. It was called the Bund standard with CCP 12, with the trade association. Is a global voice of the central counterparties. Yeah, they are the global standard setters, and they discuss it with the global voice of that industry. Yeah.
小开要划重点啦！刚刚马库斯先生说的清算对手方究竟是什么呢？清算对手方是金融领域的专有名词，也叫中央对手方。从事清算对手方业务的机构通常称作结算所或清算所。没有清算对手方之前的交易市场一般称作双边市场。每个交易成员都会面对很多不同的对手方，一旦一方违约，就可能会给其他交易对手方带来巨大的损失。简单的举个例子，饭店与农民伯伯达成协议，在半年后以谈好的价格购买一定量的土豆，并付预付款。半年之后可能会出现两种情况。情况一， 之后土豆价格下降，饭店可能选择违约，拒绝按当初商定的价格购买土豆，农民伯伯将遭受损失。情况二，因天气等原因，土豆减产导致市场价格上升，农民伯伯也可能拒绝按之前商定的价格出售土豆，饭店又会蒙受损失。那么，如果有中央对手方介入，分别与农民伯伯和饭店达成协议，即使交易一方违约，中央对手方也能够确保交易的完成。为啥叫中央？因为它是在双方或多方交易者中间的人。有了中央对手方，最大的程度上确保了交易中双方或多方的利益。全球清算对手方协会又是一个什么样的机构呢？全球清算对手方协会是由伦敦清算所等机构于2001年发起成立的全球性清算对手方机构行业协会，英文简称为 CCP12。2017年初，全球清算对手方协会办公室在上海正式运营。2017年11月2日，全球清算对手方协会在上海发布了其首个国际性清算行业标准 CCP12量化披露实务标准，受到广泛关注。因在上海外滩发布，亦被称为外滩准。
You may be interested why CCP12 settled in and registered in Shanghai and how did we manage that process. We did, of course, a competition, and that's quite normal if a global association or a multinational association wants to settle. In our case, it was 4 cities. It was London, of course, it was Brussels, it was Dubai, and it was Shanghai. Brussels is the headquarter of the European Union, but there is, on one hand, there is no strong central counterparty in Brussels, and we are a global association. We don't want only to tackle the European Union, so it shouldn't be Brussels. So Brussels was out. Yeah. For an association, for a trade association, of course, you also need a quite good tax and legal environment. And we got a very, very smart offer from Shanghai to settle here. Yeah, the Shanghai municipal government was very pleased that we asked them if we can register here in Shanghai. So from the first moment, we felt very welcome. Now, the difficulty is now, how can you now convince this international membership, a lot of them have never been in Shanghai or in China, yeah, that the headquarters should be based in Shanghai, yeah. I think it was a very smart story. First, Shanghai Clearing House, they joined CCP12 in 2013, and they became a very active member, yeah. So every other country already saw, oh, there is a central counterparty also in China, and it is working very professional. They did a great job in working closely together with the important key players of the association, like London Clearing House, like Eurex from Germany, like the central counterparties from Chicago. Then Shanghai Clearing House, they did a big conference here in Shanghai in September 2014 and invited all the other central counterparties all over the world. And a lot of representatives of these counterparties came to Shanghai and came to China the first time and were astonished as I was on my first visit. Yeah, so they really, Shanghai Clearing House really did a good promotion for the city of Shanghai. Yeah, and so at the end, even for those who had some ties with London, yeah, after some debate, everyone was supporting that we register the CCP12 here in Shanghai. Another part of that story is that also we have a huge Asian membership, and most of the new central counterparties joining the association are based in Asia. And so this was also a reason that we think it was a good idea to have the headquarters also in Asia. So we register the CCP12 here in Shanghai. Now I'm working in Shanghai for 2.5 years, and the Northbund is one of my preferred areas, which is actually here. There. The Northbund has developed quite well. It's a very nice promenade where you can walk if you start the garden bridge, and then you can walk following the river. My first experience when I arrived in 2017, I saw the lighthouse that you see down there. So I said, okay, it would also be a nice idea to take a river cruise. I walked to, I was in Huangpu, and I walked to the dock, but there was only this ferry for persons and e-scooters. It was only 2 yuan. I was surprised how cheap it was. And I entered that ferry together with hundreds of Chinese tourists, yeah, and also a lot of e-scooters. Yeah, this was really an interesting experience. So we crossed the river, and I had already detected the lighthouse. We crossed the river, and I want to start walking at the riverside, but everything was under construction. So there was a big construction fence, ring fencing the riverside, so I couldn't walk at the riverside. I was a little bit disappointed that I couldn't visit the lighthouse because it was in the construction site. 1 month later, I said, okay, I will go there again. Yeah, it's a Saturday again, and weather is nice. I took the ferry. The construction was done. Yeah, everything was prepared. Yeah, and that, I think, is also really a trademark of Shanghai. The change is so fast. Yeah, you may argue, oh, the construction at my home is lasting for years or so. Yeah, that could be the case. And what I also detected is, so nearly every month area in the Bund area, 2 new restaurants or coffee shops have opened. Yeah, and of course 1 shop which I have visited has closed. I would say the quality of the offering is always improving, and it's very nice. So every time when I'm asked, why have you settled and registered CCP 12 in Shanghai, I can make this very, very positive showcase of the city of Shanghai. And people are astonished, and I always say, come, have a look. Yeah, if you can visit Shanghai, you should do it. Yeah, you will be impressed. Yeah, and I never met someone who has visited Shanghai and was not impressed. Yeah, I can say. Yeah, my family is still living in Germany, in Frankfurt. It's a very interesting, I would say, working relationship also to organize everything in the family life if you are so far away. Yeah, but we have quite a good family spirit, and we managed that very well. And of course my family visited me, my kids visited me, my wife visited me several times, and my wife and I, we did also visited some other Chinese cities, like Nanjing, and then we went to Beijing, to the Great Wall, and we went to Suzhou. And last time when we came back from our trip to Shanghai, she said to me, oh, it's so nice coming home. Yeah, and she means Shanghai and not Germany. Yeah, and that was very nice. And this was the end of my speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
谢谢各位，请坐，请坐。云南白药气血康植物补益，改善神倦乏力。云南白药气血康口服液，邀请您继续关注开讲了。据说欧洲人见面都特别喜欢聊天气，您觉得今天天儿怎么样啊？
Oh, it's very nice, yeah, because it's not so hot, yeah. But it doesn't matter how you get wet, yeah.
我刚才坐在那儿，我的鞋给洗得干干净净，裤子全给洗干净了。在您开讲的过程当中，我们通过央视网图文直播，有很多的网友通过网络提出了一些问题。我们首先进入全民小纸条互动，来看一下网友给您提的问题。您好，马克思先生，请问您如何看待“金融难”这个词？
First, I must say I don't see me as a financial guy because I organize the infrastructure for financial guys. Yeah, yeah. I think what is so special and what my experience is you need a very, very strong character if you deal with such amount of money. If there are sometimes people dealing with that which have not such a strong character, it may develop in the wrong direction, and then we have all these scandals we see in the financial industry. And of course, because money is involved, everyone is interested, and it's always highlighted in the press. And for that reason, we also see a lot of regulation.
要抵得住诱惑，内心要非常的强大。面对诱惑的时候，自己必须有准确的价值判断和选择。第二个问题，就现在对于很多年轻人来讲，在选择自己人生方向的时候，经常会追逐一些热点。你比如说，现在大数据流行，人工智能流行，很多人就会放弃自己本来可以学得很好的专业，从而转投这些行业。但其实到了这些行业之后，他并不一定能够取得自己预期的成就。您怎么看这种现象？
If I look at my career, I graduating in mathematics, and of course, if I did my first job search, there was one offer where I really could use what I learned at university. It was clear to me that I don't want to continue in mathematics, so I joined KPMG Management Consulting. After 3 years, I said, okay, this management consulting work, I don't like it so much. I want to work for another company, and I joined the exchange business, and the exchange business was obviously so interesting that I was in that for 24 years. But I can only encourage people to give it a try, yeah, because maybe later on you say, oh, I had that opportunity, but I didn't take it, yeah, because I was a little bit curious about it, yeah. So take your opportunities.
作为年轻人来讲，在选择自己人生方向的时候，其实你们这一代人是非常幸运，机会也多，而且社会越来越包容，文化价值观念越来越多元化，你们有更广阔的天地可以去发挥自己的才华。接下来是现场观众小纸条写的问题，有一位观众非常关心您最喜欢吃的上海菜是什么？
The favorite Shanghai cuisine, it's, I always forget the name, but it's that fish that looks like which is turned around and it has a sweet and sour red sauce. Yeah, you know it?
臭鳜鱼，不，松鼠鳜鱼。怎么我脑子里会想到臭鳜鱼？哎，您尝过吗？臭鳜鱼？
No, but I have tasted stinky tofu.
臭豆腐，皮蛋您尝过吗
No, I haven't. No.
我们现场有吗？开玩笑。接下来时间我们交给现场的几位青年代表。
马库斯先生您好，萨老师好，我是上外的王丽辉同学，我是外语专业的，所以我特别好奇，您就不打算学中文吗？
马克思先生中文不错啊，能认识出口2个字。
I must really say that I'm very sorry for that, that I was so lazy not to do it so far, yeah. As I said, I started learning it with an app, of course, yeah, on my mobile phone, yeah. It was interesting, but I never used it here in Shanghai. And so at the end, because my business language is English, we have to negotiate with our membership. All the colleagues from Shanghai Clearing House I'm dealing with, they speak English. So there is not this real pressure that I do it. Yeah. I'm really sorry for that.
您现在会的中文词大概有多少个？
你好。
然后呢？ 再见。
Yeah, when I receive a call, yeah, I said 喂。
喂啊。
Yeah.
喂。
Then my counterparty is talking Chinese to me. What should I do?
喂，你好，再见。我再教你一句，打错了。 但是我觉得您从事金融工作，数字对您来讲应该是非常重要。就中文从1数到10，这个您学过吗？1、2、3、4。
I can only know a 0.
0，但0是很重要的，因为对于金融行业来讲，往往看1后面跟了几个0。确实，好像很多外国人觉得学中文很难。
其实我前几天还在跟我们学校的一个外国来的教授谈这个事儿。当年他为什么学中文呢？是因为他在搜索说世界上最难的语言是什么，然后好多网友都跟他说是中文，然后他就觉得他要挑战一下自己。
结果挑战不可能。
结果挑战了10几年，现在还会说一点上海话。对，
很厉害。
现在世界的发展是日新月异的，像我外语专业的话，很多人都说现在都有人工智能了，还要你们翻译干嘛？所以这也是让我非常担心的。您刚才也提到，像金融行业其实也是风云变幻。那想请问您怎么看待现在这样的一个时代变化的速度呢？
You have also to watch out carefully what is really adopted, because sometimes you see a new trend coming up and some months later it's already gone. Yeah, and if you always are hopping on these news developments, yeah, this keeps you very, very busy. Yeah, so I would say for all these new developments, yeah, if something is very interesting, of course, take care, but otherwise, yeah, be patient, yeah, how it will develop, and take it up when it's mature, that it really makes sense to you.
在中国，现在有很多年轻人、中年人都存在一种知识焦虑，就是总觉得知识更新的太快，好像自己几天不学习就会落后于时代。您会有这样的焦虑吗？
Yeah, that's definitely true, because as I said, we are working in a global association, so our association never sleeps, yeah, but I have to sleep, yeah. so I always have to catch up in the morning, yeah, and actually it's one of my first things I do in the morning after I wake up. I check my emails, my business emails, yeah. It's terrible, yeah, but it's the way it is, yeah.
您觉得在现在这样一个知识爆炸的时代，年轻人应该具备哪些品质呢？
It is very important that you are open to the developments, and that you are also, I think in the modern world, that you are communicating with your colleagues but also with your boss. My experience here in China was sometimes when people hear, oh, the boss is coming, they are frightening, yeah. I think that should not be the case, yeah. You should not be frightened by your boss, yeah. Yeah, there should be a collaborative environment, and I think it's very, it doesn't matter where you work, yeah, but it's very important that you that you achieve that one.
不断地从身边的人身上去学习。
谢谢马库斯先生，谢谢萨老师。
谢谢。
大家好，我叫陈安逸，来自摩洛哥，也是上海外国语大学的留学生。
哦。
然后我明年要大学毕业，不是后年要大学毕业。然后呢，
连自己几年级都没太搞明白。后年，那你现在今年是2年级？
我现在是研究生1年级。
1年级。
我到了中国的时候就感觉吃的住的就是非常的不一样。这里上海的。生活节奏非常的快，对我来说很快，就需要了很长时间。因为我打算就在这里上海工作生活，但是我有一点担心，因为我做一个留学生，不太知道外国人在这里工作有什么样的感受，所以呢，我上周拍了一个 vlog。中国是一个非常美的一个国家，我在这里留学的时候就很好奇，其他的外国人在这里工作、在这里生活有什么样的感受，所以今天的 vlog 就是去采访他们。我们走吧。
I'm working here.
And I'm a teacher.
我本来就是你们大学的留学生。
I actually was invited by a friend, and I came and I visited, and I actually liked it.
It's a good economy. There's a lot of business to do. It's really fast. Everything is fast. Everything is efficient.
New bars opening, new restaurants. So yeah, I never get bored of it after 8 years. So
it's like the New York of Asia, probably.
Yeah, everything is so convenient and cheap. Whenever I go back home, I'm like, it's so expensive.
Well, the transport is really good.
中国给我一个很好的未来。
Chinese people are really friendly, so I became probably more friendly.
And myself, being married and having a kid.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Oh, I'm happy.
You're awesome here.
Yeah, I'm
Living is
happy.
great.
Go with this. You just need to go with.
Yes.
Impatience. I feel like because everything is so convenient.
Yeah.
So when you're like fighting to get on like public transport and like you're getting through general life, I think it makes you kind of, I'm gonna say powerful.
It's China. It's China.
刚才采访了很多外国人，然后我们今天的家庭也是外国人啊，所以呢，我想问，您来中国工作以后，就是由于文化的差异，会有困扰吗？
No, I hadn't. Yeah, but I must also say that I already did know the environment, the working environment. So my expectations were well known to me. Yeah, as a foreigner, to get oriented in, to get orientation here in Shanghai, you can do nearly everything with the web. Yeah, if you have WeChat, Didi, Smart Shanghai on your phone, yeah, you are already settled in Shanghai. Yeah, that's very impressive. Yeah.
上海非常的不错，很发达，所以呢，我现在呢，我觉得学习中文是对我来说是最有好处的。
但我觉得你完全不用担心，你中文这么好，马库斯先生一句中文不会，在上海都生活的这么开心。
你现在不是在这里中国生活嘛，工作嘛，觉得很舒服。那你会推荐就是从来没来过这里的外国人，就是让他们过来这里工作吗？过来这里生活吗？
Yes, of course, yeah. But they should do an orientation visit first, yeah, before they make their final decision, yeah. I think you cannot judge on that from far away, yeah, just with, yeah, researching the internet and having some videos or so. Yeah, you have to be here, yeah, to get really the impression and to get feeling of the city, yeah.
假设我是一个从来没有来过中国的外国人，如果您要是向我推荐上海3个理由。
It is a very modern city. You can work, but you can also rest very good in the city. And you feel always safe in the city. Yeah. And people are very friendly and nice. If I commute, I never have the situation that I'm fearful and see, oh, there's a danger or some strange guys are looking at me or something like that. Yeah. What is different in other parts of the world?
中国也是现在世界上安全度非常高的一个国家，这你可以放心的在这个城市里去享受你的生活。
我也是这样感觉。
当然，我们还有松鼠鲑鱼，这也是个好理由。
谢谢马克思先生，
谢谢。祝你学业顺利，赶快搞清楚自己到底什么时候毕业。下一位，
您好，马克思先生。
你好。
其实我之前有见过您。
哦，
在轮渡上。因为我每天上班，我都是坐这个轮渡。之前在那个网络视频上注意到一个细节，您的手上有一张小的公交卡，我想知道您是来上海多久以后办的呢？
I got this transportation card very early. I think on my first day in the office, yeah, my personal assistants have said, oh, I have a second transportation card. I don't need it. You can take it. I said, okay, what is this? Yeah, what should I do with it? Yeah, you can post money on it. There's a machine, and it was quite easy. I think I never bought a single ticket. I started directly with using the transportation card. Traffic infrastructure in Shanghai is amazing, and I'm really impressed how they organized the traffic and everything fits together. Yeah, pedestrians, the underground, the buses, ferries, and of course the cars. In Frankfurt, you can imagine you have to check the schedule. When is the next train arriving? Yeah, here in Shanghai, you just walk to the underground and wait for some minutes. Yeah. And the train really comes, yeah, at time, yeah, which is not the case in Frankfurt, yeah. Also, I was in London last week, and it was a very hot day in London, and the underground has no air condition. Yeah, in London. Yeah, you get really grilled if you are in the train. Yeah.
那其实说了这么多的公共交通，我们其实从刚才您演讲的地方也好，从之前有一个那个视频也好，您其实还是对轮渡特别钟情的。那您有了解过那个上海的轮渡大概是一个什么样的历史吗？
Oh no, I'm very interested in that. Yeah, I haven't heard about it.
其实上海轮渡其实大概已经有100多年的历史了。它最早开始是在1911年的时候就已经建立了。在20年前的时候，其实大家通往浦江两岸的话，其实都是经过轮渡去过江的。当然，现在跟以往不一样了，因为上海毕竟日新月异嘛。渡轮之前可能是上海的一条生命线一样，大家都要通过这个去进行工作啊，进行生活。现在呢，可能更多的像是一条风景线一样，因为有很多游客。 他们会来上海以后，发现有渡轮，会去尝试。
所以从一个轮渡的变化，你也能感觉出一个城市的发展。
对，还有一件我觉得和那个马库斯先生非常巧合的是，其实今天晚上我就要和我的妻子一起去德国玩。
你的德语怎么样？
啊，我完全不会说德语。
出口认识吧？
啊，认识。
然后见面打招呼。
见面打招呼我不太了解。
Hello is also very common in German, but Guten Tag.
再见呢
Auf Wiedersehen, but everyone understands bye bye. Yeah.
德语说起来是比较硬的语言，就连德语说我爱你，听起来都非常的 powerful. Ich liebe dich.
我还有一个问题，就是说，马库斯先生，您如何看待就是中国留学生走到外面去，外国的留学生来到中国，这样双方的一些文化的交流呢？
本节目由金鸿魔法冰箱赞助播出，金鸿冰箱给你健康。
If you are a foreigner coming to China and you study here in China, is you shouldn't disconnect your roots to your home country. Because I think mainly you can be beneficial to companies or the administration of your home country.
无论你是去国外工作，还是国外的朋友到中国来寻找发展机会，最终其实都是能够起到一个桥梁的作用。那么最后问您一个问题，您也说了，这个西方文化当中人们的坦诚交流非常重要。我想问一下，如果让您代表所有生活工作在上海的外国人，提出一点你们觉得不满意的在上海一件事情是什么
？My experience is that a lot of things which were cumbersome at the beginning, like transferring money overseas, like immigration. In the last 2 years, they have improved so much. I can use the e-channel. Yeah, I'm so fast at immigration now here. It's amazing. Bank transfers are now much easier possible. Yeah, so it's really difficult to think about something what can be further improved. When we have new hires, so this first visa process, yeah, for foreigners, that is really cumbersome. But it's understandable. Yeah, it's always the first time. It's difficult, but the second time it's very easy and smooth.
所以未来人才的流动，文化的交流，还希望有更加顺畅的通道。今天我也看到现场有不少的来自国外的我们的观众朋友，特别诚挚地告诉各位，今天的中国是一个开放的国度，我们敞开胸怀，欢迎不同的文化在这里碰撞交流，欢迎大家各自来分享属于我们自己的故事，而我们也期待着在未来。为你们以及你们的家人讲好中国的故事，谢谢你们，感谢各位收看今天的开讲，也再次感谢马克思先生给我们带来的精彩开讲。下一期节目再见。Thank you. 心灵党。